The morning sun rose slowly over the quiet outskirts of Cebu, painting the sky with soft strokes of pink and gold. In a cramped alley where clotheslines sagged between old wooden homes and the smell of boiling rice drifted through the air, 6-year-old Ramon de la Cruz began another ordinary day, one he believed would be just like all the others. Ramon's home, a small structure patched together with plywood, tin, and love, stood beside his father's humble repair shop. The shop wasn't much, just a weathered sign that read Tate Ben's Furniture Fixing, a worn-out workbench, and piles of old chairs waiting for a miracle. But it was where Ramon had grown up, where he had learned to rub oil into splintered wood, where he had first discovered that even broken things could live again. His father always said, "Anak, every piece of wood has a story. You just have to listen to it." Anak. Indak. Ramon tried to do the same with people. And sometimes with songs. That morning, as he swept sawdust from the floor, he hummed a melody without thinking. It was an Elvis Presley tune, one he'd memorized from an old battery-powered radio that never quite caught the full signal but somehow carried Elvis's voice perfectly. The King's music had been his comfort for as long as he could remember, a reminder that even someone starting from nothing could rise. Ramon didn't sing for crowds. He didn't dream of fame. He barely believed dreams were meant for boys like him. But alone in that little shop, surrounded by tools and memories, his voice felt free. Raw. Honest. Like a secret that didn't need to stay hidden. He didn't know that today, someone else would hear it. Just as he reached the chorus of "Can't Help Falling in Love," a stray dog trotted in, wagging its tail as if asking for an encore. A soft giggle followed. It was his little sister, Mila, clutching her threadbare teddy bear. She always listened quietly, sitting on a stool like he was performing on a grand stage. "You sound like in the movies, Kuya," she whispered. Ramon chuckled. "Movies? This is just me, sweeping and singing so Tate won't fall asleep again." But Mila wasn't the only one there. At the entrance, a woman stood frozen. A foreign tourist, blonde hair, sunglasses perched on her head, backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. She had paused when she heard the voice drifting from the shop, expecting a speaker or a recording. Instead, she found a shy boy singing with a sincerity she had never heard on the radio. For a moment she didn't move. She simply listened. There was something remarkable about the way Ramon sang, unpolished yet powerful, as if every note carried a lifetime of untold stories. His voice wasn't just hitting the melody, it was reaching for something beyond the walls of the shop, beyond the dusty streets of Cebu. The tourist slowly lifted her phone. The soft click of the camera made Ramon turn around, startled. His voice cracked, and he immediately lowered his head, embarrassed. "I am sorry," the woman said, stepping forward. "I didn't mean to scare you. You have an incredible voice." Ramon blinked, confused. Compliments weren't things he received often unless it was Mila clapping for him after he finished repairing a chair. "Me? No, ma'am. I just sing for fun," he muttered, scratching the back of his neck. The woman smiled. "Doesn't matter. Talent is talent." She asked if she could share the short video she took. Ramon hesitated. Who would care about a boy from Cebu fixing chairs and singing old songs? But the woman insisted gently, promising it might bring a little joy to someone out there. "Okay po," he said softly. She left moments later, waving goodbye as Mila waved back excitedly. Ramon returned to sweeping, brushing off the encounter as something small and unimportant. But little did he know. That 30-second clip, shaky, unfiltered, and filmed between hanging laundry, would change the course of his life. By the time he sat down for lunch, the video was already beginning to spread. A few shares. A few hundred views. Comments from strangers saying, "Who is this boy? He sounds like Elvis. Where is he from?" Ramon didn't know any of it yet. For now, he was just a boy in a quiet Cebu shop, unaware that the world had finally heard his voice. 2 weeks passed quietly in the De La Cruz household, and Ramon still had no idea that his life was being shared, celebrated, and replayed on phones across the world. He still spent his afternoons sanding chair legs, oiling wooden tables, and singing softly under his breath. Life felt the same until the afternoon that everything changed. It was a humid day in Cebu. The small electric fan in their home buzzed weakly as Mila tugged at Ramon's shirt. "Kuya, the computer is making a noise again," she whispered. Their old desktop computer was a decade-old hand-me-down donated by a neighbor who upgraded years ago. It took 10 full minutes to start and made clicking sounds like it was trying its best not to give up. Ramon sat down, tapped the side of the CPU twice his usual way of encouraging it and waited for the screen to load. When he opened their email inbox, he almost scrolled past it. The subject line read, "Invitation, America's Got Talent Audition, Ramon de la Cruz." He frowned. Spam, he thought. Probably another online scam offering prizes they would never see. But something about the sender name made him pause. NBC casting team. His heart thumped once hard. "Mila. Can you get Tate?" he whispered without taking his eyes off the screen. His father walked in slowly, wiping sweat from his forehead with a towel. "Anik, what is it? Did the computer crash again?" "No, Tay," Ramon said, his voice trembling. I think someone from America wrote to us." His father leaned closer, squinting at the email. The English was formal, professional, not the messy sentences typical of scams. It said they had seen his viral video, and wanted to invite him to audition for their new season. They would guide him through everything, it said. They believed he could be one of the most inspiring talents of the year. Ramon's chest tightened. "Tay, this can't be real. Who would want me? I'm just a boy from here, from our shop." His father placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes, Anik, the world sees what we do not." But then reality crashed down like a wave. Even if this email was real, how could they ever afford a plane ticket? How would they get a passport? How would they buy luggage, clothes, anything? "Tay, we don't have money," Ramon whispered. "I can't go even if they want me." The room fell silent. Mila tugged his hand. Maybe people will help, Kuya." At first, he forced a smile. "Who would help us? Everyone here is already trying so hard to take care of themselves." But Mila was right, more right than any of them knew. Word spread faster than fire in their small barangay. Neighbors who had seen the same video Ramon didn't even know existed, started gathering around their home. They replayed the clip on their phones, showing it proudly as if they had discovered a lost treasure. "That's our boy. I knew this kid had a gift. He deserves a chance." By evening, their tiny front yard was filled with people carrying envelopes, jars, and even folded bills hidden between their palms. A tricycle driver, still in his sweaty shirt from a long shift, pressed a few crumpled notes into Ramon's hand. "Not much, dong. But go show them what a Cebuano voice sounds like." An elderly woman who sold vegetables in the market came forward next. Her hands were shaking as she placed a small pouch of coins on the table. "I saved these for emergencies, but today feels like one," she said with a gentle smile. Kids from the neighborhood arrived with plastic bags full of coins they had collected from recycling empty bottles. "For Kuya Ramon." They cheered. Ramon's eyes filled with tears he tried hard to hide. He knew everyone here worked too hard for every peso. They couldn't afford luxuries. Many couldn't even afford a proper meal every day, yet here they were, giving anyway. His father tried to protest. "Ayana, please. You all keep your money. We cannot accept." But the barangay captain stepped forward, lifting a hand. "Ben, listen. This isn't charity. This is hope. Your boy gives us pride. Let us give him wings." Ramon pressed a hand to his chest, overwhelmed. The weight of the community's kindness was almost too much to carry. "Tay," he whispered shakily. "Are we really doing this?" His father's eyes softened, eyes that had seen hardship, sacrifice, and the silent prayers of a parent wanting more for his child. "Yes, Anik," he said, voice thick with emotion. "We are going to America. Not because we are rich, but because love makes us rich enough." That night, as Ramon lay on his thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Possibility. Not because of fame. Not because of fortune. But because an entire community believed in him. And perhaps, just perhaps, he was beginning to believe in himself too. The flight to America felt unreal, like a dream Ramon feared he might wake from at any moment. But nothing felt more surreal than stepping inside the America's Got Talent auditorium for the very first time. The lights. The energy. The thousands of seats stretching out like an ocean of anticipation. It was a world far bigger than anything he had ever known. Backstage, Ramon sat on a metal chair, gripping his microphone like it was a lifeline. The AGT crew bustled around him, camera operators, stagehands, producers rushing from one place to another, but to Ramon, everything felt muffled, distant. His heart was pounding loud enough to drown out the noise. Ramon de la Cruz? I staff member called. He stood up quickly. Yes, yes. This way. He followed her down a narrow hallway lined with posters of AGT legends, past winners, unforgettable performers, moments that had changed people's lives. He wondered if he belonged here. If he ever could. His father's words echoed in his mind, "You bring our whole barangay with you." He felt the weight of that truth with every step. Finally, he reached the small holding area just before the stage curtains. He could hear the crowd beyond cheering, laughing, whispering. Each sound felt like a wave crashing over him. A towering producer knelt slightly to meet his eyes. "You ready, buddy?" Ramon swallowed. "I think so." "Don't think," the producer smiled. "Just sing." Then the curtains parted, and he walked into the blinding lights. For a moment, Ramon couldn't move. The stage felt enormous. The judges' table gleamed under the spotlights. And sitting in the center, arms crossed, was Simon Cowell, the man who had inspired, terrified, and challenged millions of performers across the world. The crowd quieted, sensing his nervousness. Simon raised a brow. "Hello. What's your name?" Ramon, sir." "Ramon de la Cruz. Where are you from, Ramon?" "From Cebu, Philippines." The audience clapped warmly. Heidi waved and smiled. Sophia mouthed, "Welcome." But Ramon's hands were trembling so badly that he almost dropped the microphone. Simon leaned forward slightly. "So, Ramon, what will you be singing today?" He took a shaky breath. An Elvis Presley song. Because his music helped me through a lot." A soft chuckle rippled through the crowd, gentle, not mocking. They had seen Elvis tributes before. Many. But none had ever been a shy teenage boy from a tiny Cebu neighborhood with a voice too big for his home. Simon nodded slowly. "All right. Good luck." The music began soft, familiar, comforting, like a friend he had grown up with. Ramon closed his eyes on the first note. And then, he sang. His voice, though trembling at first, carried a warmth and depth that felt older than his years. It wasn't just a performance, it was a confession. Every hardship, every prayer, every night he sang to comfort himself, it was all there, woven into every note. The audience leaned in without realizing it. Sophia pressed a hand to her heart. Heidi's eyes softened with emotion. Howie mouthed, "Wow." And Simon, who never gave anything away too easily, lifted his head in genuine surprise. His brow unfurrowed. His serious expression shifted into something rare, something almost tender. Because Ramon didn't sound like someone trying to be Elvis. He sounded like someone who had lived every lyric. The higher notes soared effortlessly, carrying the innocence of a boy and the soul of a man who had known real struggle. The lower notes resonated like a warm embrace, full of truth and emotion. By the time he reached the last line, the theater was completely silent, not out of doubt, but awe. He finished the song with a soft, heartfelt final note that hung in the air like a prayer. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The silence felt endless. Then the crowd erupted, screaming, cheering, standing. A wave of applause crashed around him, so powerful that Ramon instinctively stepped back, overwhelmed. Heidi stood first, clapping with a smile that shone like stage lights. Sophia followed, wiping at her eyes. Howie jumped to his feet. And then Simon stood. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But with deliberate respect. Ramon's breath caught in his chest. Simon rested his palms on the table. Ramon, he said slowly, voice steady but warm. You don't just sing Elvis. You feel Elvis. The crowd roared again. And I'll be honest, Simon added, shaking his head lightly, I wasn't expecting that voice to come from someone so humble, so young, so real. Ramon's eyes stung, tears gathering despite his attempt to blink them away. He had never heard words like that directed at him, never imagined he would. He clutched the microphone tighter. He wasn't just a boy from Cebu anymore. He was Ramon, the voice that made an entire auditorium rise to its feet. And the moment wasn't finished changing his life. The applause was still shaking the theater when Ramon lowered the microphone, his chest rising and falling like he had just run a marathon. The energy, the cheers, the lights, everything felt unreal, like a dream too bright to stare at directly. He looked toward the judge's table, still trembling, unsure what happened next. Simon leaned into his microphone. Ramon, before we say anything else, I want to know more about you. His voice was unusually soft, curious, even protective. Ramon swallowed, glancing nervously at the cameras. I'm from Cebu, sir. I live with my father and little sister. We fix furniture to make a living. How did you get here? Heidi asked. Did you travel alone? No, ma'am. My father came with me. But our neighbors helped us. He paused, cheeks warming. They saved coins. They sold junk. They gave what they could. Even people who had very little still gave. The crowd gasped quietly. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Howie nodded with admiration. That, Sophia whispered into her mic, is beautiful. Ramon's throat tightened. He hadn't planned to say any of this. But standing here, under the lights, he felt the weight of his community on his shoulders, the people who believed in him long before the world ever heard his voice. Simon tapped his pen gently on the table. You're telling me that your entire barangay helped send you here? Ramon nodded. Yes, sir. They believed I might bring a smile to people. Simon exhaled slowly, visibly moved. Well. You've done much more than that. A hush settled over the audience. The other judges exchanged meaningful glances. Something was stirring, something beyond the usual AGT praise. How old is your sister? Howie asked. She's 8, Ramon replied. She loves to sing too, but she needs school. And we need to fix our shop. The roof leaks when it rains. The audience murmured. Emotions swelled in the theater, filling the air with a compassion that felt almost heavy. Then Heidi leaned forward, her voice carrying a mixture of warmth and determination. Ramon, your voice is a gift, but so is your heart. You came here not just for yourself, but for everyone back home. Sophia nodded in agreement. So we want to give something back. Ramon blinked. Simon held up a hand, signaling for the crowd to quiet. Ramon, he said gently, every once in a while, we meet someone whose story reminds us what this show is really about: hope. He reached beneath the desk and pulled out a sealed envelope. We spoke with our producers, he continued, and the AGT team has arranged a special fund to help your family's workshop, and your sister's schooling. Ramon's breath hitched. He stared at Simon, stunned, unable to process what he was hearing. Gasps rippled through the audience. Sophia clapped a hand over her mouth. Heidi wiped at her tears. Even the crew members in the back paused their work to watch. But, sir, I don't. Ramon's voice broke. He pressed a hand to his face, overwhelmed. Simon smiled a soft, rare smile that melted his usual sternness. You deserve this. Your community believed in you. Now let us believe in you too. Ramon's vision blurred with tears. He thought of the neighbors offering coins they desperately needed for themselves. He thought of his father's tired hands repairing chairs into the night. He thought of Mila sleeping beside their leaky roof. Thank you. I don't know what to say, he whispered. Sophia stood up, speaking gently but firmly. You don't have to say anything. Just promise us one thing: keep singing. Keep spreading happiness. Keep spreading the smile. Ramon nodded, wiping his tears with the back of his hand. His heart felt too big for his chest. He could almost hear the cheers of his whole barangay echoing in that vast theater. The audience erupted in applause again, louder this time, deeper, filled with something beyond excitement. It was love. It was unity. It was humanity in its purest form. Heidi leaned closer. You came here because kindness lifted you. Now, let it carry you even further. Ramon took a shaky step back, clutching the microphone. He felt lighter than air, as if the burden he'd carried for years had suddenly lifted. There on the stage, with the world watching, he realized something. His voice had opened a door. But kindness both given and received was what truly changed everything. Back in Cebu, thousands of miles from the bright American stage, the De La Cruz home looked like it might burst from the number of people gathered inside and outside. Neighbors leaned over windows, children sat on the floor clutching makeshift flags, mothers carried trays of pancit and sticky rice, and old men pulled up plastic chairs like they were preparing for a championship game. A battered TV, perched on top of two stacked wooden crates, flickered with the AGT logo. Mila sat cross-legged in front of the screen, her teddy bear tucked tightly under her arm, her eyes shining with pride. That's my kuya, she whispered to every new person who arrived. When Ramon's audition began to play, the entire barangay fell silent. Even the stray dogs seemed to pause as his voice filled the small living room. It wasn't just a performance, it was their pride, their sacrifice, their hope coming alive on screen. Gasps. Crying. Shouts of joy. People who had known Ramon since he was a shy, barefoot kid running around the block now watched him command one of the biggest stages in the world. When Simon praised him, the room erupted. When the judges applauded him, neighbors hugged each other. And when the golden buzzer lights rained down on Ramon, turning the screen into a shimmering sea of gold, the entire barangay screamed. Ramon! 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 Go, Cebu! Sus! Ayang Nikaya! He did it! He did it! Mila covered her mouth with both hands as tears spilled down her cheeks. She wasn't alone. Many cried not because they were sad, but because they were witnessing one of their own rise beyond anything they ever imagined possible. Ramon's father, strong and usually stoic, felt his knees weaken. He sat down slowly on a wooden stool, emotions flooding through him like a wave. That's my boy, he whispered, voice cracking. That's my Ramon. A week later, when Ramon returned to Cebu, the airport transformed into a celebration. He stepped out into the arrivals area and froze. Hundreds of people, neighbors, vendors, tricycle drivers, school children were waiting for him, waving signs that read, "Our golden boy. Cebu loves you. Spread the smile." Someone started singing an Elvis tune, and soon the entire crowd was singing it with laughter and pride. Ramon covered his face, overwhelmed by the love that seemed to wrap around him like sunlight. But Ramon hadn't come home empty-handed. He carried with him the envelope AGT had given him, the funds that would help his family stand stronger than ever. But more than that, he came home with a heart determined to share everything he had been given. A month later, a new structure began rising at the edge of the barangay, a small but sturdy community stage with bright lights, a simple sound system, and wooden benches built from his father's repaired materials. People gathered around as Ramon hammered the final nail into place. When he stepped back, the children clapped excitedly. "Tada-ah!" Mila announced. "Kuya, says everyone can sing here." Ramon grinned and wiped his palms on his jeans. "This is for all of you," he said, addressing the crowd. "You all believed in me, so now I want every kid, every voice to have a place to be heard." One of the tricycle drivers stepped forward, eyes misty. "Ramon, you gave us pride. Now you give us hope." Ramon shook his head. "No po. You gave me hope first." He knelt beside a small group of kids who were staring shyly at the new stage. "Go on," he encouraged gently. "Try it. Even if your voice shakes. Even if you think you're not ready. I started just like you. The kids hesitated, then giggled and ran onto the stage, their voices rising in joyful, off-key melody. People laughed, clapped, and cheered. The sound wasn't perfect. But it was pure. And it was beautiful. That night, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and the sky turned a soft shade of purple, Ramon stood at the edge of the stage, hands in his pockets, listening to the fading laughter of the neighborhood kids. His father came to stand beside him. "Anik. You've done something good here." Ramon smiled softly. "They did something good for me first, Tay." His father nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "Your voice reached America. But your kindness, that's what will stay here forever." Ramon looked around him, the smiling faces, the rebuilt shop, the little stage glowing under the lanterns, and felt warmth fill his chest. He had once dreamed silently. Afraid. Unsure. Invisible. But now? He wasn't just a boy with a voice. He was a boy who had carried his community on his shoulders, and brought back something brighter than gold. Hope. And somewhere, maybe in spirit, maybe in memory, he imagined Elvis smiling too. Because this wasn't just a performance anymore. It was a legacy. A reminder that kindness creates miracles. And that even the smallest acts of generosity can echo across oceans. This was how Ramon chose to spread the smile. By giving back the very love that carried him to the world.